Kia ora everyone. Welcome back to Kiwi Cricket Kōrero. We're having another chat here with Otis today. We're going to be talking a whole bunch of cricket. So we've got Super Smash action. We've got New Zealand 11 versus South Africa. We've got the Black Caps versus South Africa Test squad. We have got the Hawke Cup, all the Hawke Cup games, and then we're also going to touch on the Dunedin T20 competition. So welcome Otis back for another episode. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me again, Vincent.
So we'll start off with the Super Smash. So we had the Hinds play the Blaze. Well, the Blaze play the Hinds in the first game at Eden Park. And well, that was a low scoring affair to say the least. So yeah, Millie Kerr top scoring for the Blaze with 35, while Rose Marimia took figures of 4 overs, one maiden, 4 wickets for 5 runs, to get to bowl the Blaze out for 89. And then the Hinds, they kind of cooked the chase a bit. Tamsin Newton finishing 27 not out, and they finished on 88 for 5 in the rain reduced match of 17 overs. Um, and then, Otis, do you have any thoughts on the women's final?
Low scoring affair, it's always going to be an exciting match.
Mm,
The highest top score was Amelia Kerr
yeah,
with 35, once again,
mm,
off 35 balls.
yeah,
If Amelia Kerr can't score it at just over a runner ball, no one's going to.
yeah,
So, looked
okay.
promising for the Hinds, but
Hmm.
in the end, Tamsin Newton's knock just wasn't quick enough,
Mm,
in my opinion, and they fell a run short in the end.
yeah. And now, unfortunately, in the men's game, we only got through 14.2 overs because of good old rain. Um, that was set to be a really exciting finish, I think, there for Canterbury. They were heading for, well, probably 200, weren't they, with Latham in at 58, not out of 33, and Cole McConkey just starting his innings, 14 off 7. So, Otis, I mean, there's not really much we can talk about on that men's game, can we?
No, it was nice to see Ben Lister keep it tight off his 2 overs. He only
Yeah,
went for 9 runs and he picked up a wicket,
yeah,
but
cheap loss.
There wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah, no,
Tom Latham was just came out with a classy knock, and
yeah,
Henry Nicholls scored a quick
yeah, true,
42,
yeah,
trying to prove to the selectors why they shouldn't drop him from the Black Caps side.
mm,
However, Canterbury, they would have probably scored around 200, I would say,
yeah,
and then Auckland would have had to chase it down. So I think Auckland actually got away with it a little bit.
yeah. But I suppose you've got Fennell on your side. Anything can really happen, can't it?
Yeah. Finn Allen, he's a great asset to
Mm,
Auckland. However, if he gets out early, I didn't see much firepower in that side.
mm,
Um, Up until maybe Cam Fletcher and Will O'Donnell, and if
mm,
they couldn't finish the job, no one was going to.
yeah,
So if they had to chase 65 off 5 overs, and Finn
yeah,
Allen gets out in the first over, who's going to secure their inning and who's going to hit the runs?
yeah,
Because I don't see Solia, Chapman, Robbie O'Donnell getting more than, let's say, 125 strike rate. So
yeah,
it's they they probably came away unscathed, luckily.
yeah. But I mean, they did deserve, really, if you look at the whole competition, they beat Canterbury twice already. So, I mean, they kind of sort of probably had the upper hand in terms of, they probably were the deserved team to win the competition at the end of the day. Because, they topped the ladder, won 6 games, I think. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
they did suffer a couple of losses near the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, it was probably, I mean, unlucky for Canterbury. Finals in a row, still not able to get over the line. Can they maybe do it next year? What do you think? I mean, I don't see too many players retiring out of that team, do you?
No, I don't. I more see players maybe getting shoved out for younger talent. We saw that Michael Rippon was 12th man
Mm,
down in the final,
yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Ray maybe got kicked out of the side soon.
yeah,
He's just came up to Canterbury, but he hasn't had the best of seasons
no,
in all formats. So
yeah,
he's going to have to improve on that. Um, However, I see Rippon. He's more going to get moved out of the Super Smash squad
Yeah.
and more moved into the Ford Trophy and in the Plate Shield squads.
hmm
However, they've got a really good core. I mean,
Yeah.
if they can keep Henry Nichols and Tom Latham and Chad Bowes around, those are three Black Caps who know what they're doing and they
Yeah.
can get the team off to a good start. So
hmm
I see that they could probably win a final. However, they're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So the top wicket taker and top run scorer of the competition was the only, Millie Kerr. I mean, she was on fire the whole competition. She got the Blaze over the line in a couple of games with a couple of 5 wicket bags, one against Central Districts and the other against Canterbury. Um, were there any, and then in the men's competition, you had Dan Ferns and Bevan with 18 wickets, and then Bevan Small with 16 wickets. Were you surprised to see those two, Dan Ferns and Bevan Small, at the top of that wicket taking list?
They kind of came in late in the competition.
Mm,
Um, I mean, it was looking like Logan Van Beek, Nathan
mm,
Smith, and Peter Younghusband were going
mm,
to top the list by the end of it. However,
mm,
they didn't click on
yeah.
in the end of the tournament. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
Younghusband finished seventh equal with Nathan Smith too,
mm-hmm,
both on 13,
mm,
and then you had Logan Van Beek in third with 15. I mean, Wellington's bowling dropped off near the latter half of the
yeah.
season. They had a great first performance against Otago,
Mm,
and then after that, it didn't click so much.
yeah.
However, they had good averages,
Mm,
they had good economy rates. If they
mm,
keep that up next season, that was maybe it was a little bit unlucky to lose that elimination final.
mm-hmm,
Maybe they can maybe they can go one further into the
yeah.
final and even win it again.
Mm. And then looking through the top run scorers, of course, you had Millie Kerr leading the way in the women's, and Susie Bates with 398. They were well ahead of Holly Armitage, who was the next best with 318. Does it surprise you to see Millie Kerr and Susie Bates at the top of that run scoring list?
No, it doesn't. I mean,
Yeah,
they're just a class above the
yeah,
rest. Even in the White Ferns. I
mm,
mean, Sophie Devine didn't play until the 10th round of Super Smash
yeah,
and really only came back for the final.
yeah,
Um, so it wasn't. I mean, they both Amelia Kerr and Susie Bates both averaged above 50.
mm-hmm,
However, their strike rates probably could have been improved a little bit throughout the season.
mm-hmm,
I mean, you see Chamari Athapatu, who was the Northern District's overseas player,
yeah,
she only scored 221 runs in the
yeah,
end. Um, and you see there's all this local talent ahead of her,
mm,
um, unlike Susie Bates and Amelia Kerr at the
yeah,
top,
yeah,
um, who are not really regarded as the best T20 players.
mm-hmm,
However, they've been there and done it, and they know
mm,
what to do.
mm. Now moving on to the men's top run scorers, you had Henry Nichols leading the way. I think, did that surprise you seeing him at the top after 317?
Well, I mean, in the end, it was probably meant to be Tim Robinson. However, he
Yeah,
got unlucky with his injury. I
yeah,
mean, he high scored in that game against Otago with 139.
yeah.
Um, you see,
I think
the
he made
list
80
Dan.
odd as well against Wellington.
mm,
And I mean
Yeah,
against Canterbury and Christchurch. So I mean,
I mean, he only had about two or three big scores. However, that
yeah,
nearly got him across the line.
yeah,
But Henry Nichols was consistent
mm,
in all of his
yeah,
performances this season.
mm,
I mean, you see Tom Latham in fifth. He had the 10th highest average
oh
in
yeah,
the tournament. You see,
mm-hmm,
but if we were going off average and Tim Robinson had played every game that his team was
yeah,
involved in, he would have been by
yeah,
far
mm,
near the top. So I mean, the top run scorers can be a little bit deceiving. However,
yes,
you've seen. I mean, Moa Bass came came into his shell
yeah,
uh, this season. I mean, Nick Kelly's performed at the top when Wellington needed someone.
yeah,
And you see Doug Bracewell's up there too after scoring that beautiful knock down at was it Fitzherbert Park?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
90 odd.
so 93 not
Yeah,
out.
about 33
So
balls.
yeah, if if you look at the best averages, it was Glenn Phillips and Finn Allen, and then
Yeah,
Blundell and
mm-hmm,
Guptill. I mean, those four, they weren't going to play in Super Smash. They were never going to get the most run scorers. However,
Yeah.
that, that when they played, they were good and
Mm,
consistent for their
hmm
teams, and that's what their teams needed.
Yeah. So yeah, so just to wrap that up, Wellington Blaze, Women's Super Smash Champions, Auckland Aces, Men's Super Smash Champions. So moving on now, we'll look at the New Zealand chess guide side to play South Africa. So that's just going to be up on the screen now for you guys, but I'll just read it out as well. So you've got Tim Southee as your captain, Tom Blundell, Devon Conway, Matt Henry, Kyle Jamieson, Tom Latham, Daryl Mitchell, Will O'Rourke. He's just playing the second test though. Well, he's in the squad for the second test. Glenn Phillips, Rachin Ravindra, Mitch Santner, Neil Wagner, Kane Williamson, and Will Young. So is there any surprises in that squad for you, Otis?
I mean, selecting Willow Rourke was a bit of a surprise. I mean,
Mhm.
it kind of came out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
mean, they did select him in a few one days near the back end of last year.
Mhm.
However, I didn't expect him to be promoted up to Test cricket so early.
Mm.
However, he's only in the squad for the second Test, and I
Yeah.
really don't expect him to play.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you've seen Rachin Ravindra has came into the side after
Yeah.
a little bit of a break.
Mm.
But it's a full strength Whitecaps Test side.
Mhm.
Um, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact there's questions about Williamson's fitness, there's questions
Mm.
about Blundell's fitness, there's questions about Jameson's fitness.
Mm.
However, if they can come right, uh, South Africa aren't playing their number one strength side
Mm.
as they've decided to go play in the T20.
Yeah.
However, they can push on and
Mm.
they could probably take a convincing win this series.
Yeah. Um, so the South African side, is there anyone that really has sort of stuck out? I mean, you've probably seen some of the New Zealand 11 game down at Lincoln. Anyone in the from the batters or the bowlers that have stuck out so far for you?
I mean, no one's necessarily just stuck out. I
Yeah.
mean, you've seen in South Africa's first inning, I mean, Van Tonder scored 54 off
Mm-hmm.
47, retiring not out.
Yep.
And then De Swart uh, scored 53 off 78.
Mm.
Um, their bowling, it wasn't the best, but I mean, Pedersen took a fourfer
Mm.
in just under 11 overs.
Yeah.
That looked promising for them.
Mm.
However, they did roll the New Zealand side pretty quickly. I think they rolled them
Yeah.
for 294,
Yeah.
whereas New Zealand couldn't really get the South African side out.
Yeah.
They declared for 339 for five
Yeah.
on the first day. So
Mm.
it's South Africa lead coming into the third day. However,
Mm.
it's going to be a close matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to see a result, really. I mean, it's unlikely unless somehow South Africa go out, play half the day, and then try and bowl the New Zealand 11 out in the afternoon. I mean, these 3-day tour matches aren't really to get a result. They're more just practice for the players.
Yeah, exactly. It depends. South Africa might want to have some more time out in the middle batting. I
Mm.
mean, they looked pretty confident from their scores.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, but you see Neil Brand at the top
Mm.
captaining, he scored 46.
Mm-hmm.
Van Tonder scored 54.
Mm.
Peterson scored 37. I
Yeah.
mean, there was some guys who just stuck out in that
Mm.
side and really carried the side along.
Mm-hmm. And also in the New Zealand 11 innings, you've got Leo Carter, got that 100 from 192 balls, and then Bharat Popley with the 89 from 77. You know, they're two players, they're two probably seasoned domestic players, you could say, those two.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they stuck up when others couldn't. I mean,
Mm.
you saw Dean Foxcroft scored none
Yeah.
of four deliveries. I mean, it was great to see them perform. I mean, Jacob Cumming finally came into his own. And he scored 36 off 41 in a inning with 8 fours.
Mm.
That was very different to his Otago form. I mean, he hasn't been playing the very best for Otago. I think he
Mm-hmm.
averages around 20 in the Plunket Shield
Mm-hmm.
this season. But mainly it was basically nearly an
Yeah.
Otago side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, none of the Otago players have performed really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been pretty much the opposite of the Otago players performing, and
Yeah.
everyone else from the other associations has been performing
Yeah.
apart from Matt Boyle, but
Yeah.
it's they've really the New Zealand 11 just need to keep chugging along
Mm.
because they've got some good players in there, and
Hmm.
Leo Carter could always, there's always a chance of the IPL eventually. Leo Carter might get a New Zealand call up even,
Mm.
so it's all to play for.
Yeah, yeah. Now moving on to quick series predictions. So series winner by how much? Your top run scorer, yeah, and your top wicket taker. And then we'll say someone that you think is going to really stand out, but might not top the wickets or the run scoring ladder. So yeah, what do you think? Who do you think could be some names for those categories?
Uh, so first of all, I'm going to go with my top wicket taker. That is going to be Matt Henry from
Mm,
Canterbury. I think he's going to have a standout opportunity,
hmm
and he's gonna stand up for the Black Caps.
hmm
I mean, Tim Southey won't be too far behind him. However,
hmm
I think Matt Henry, he knows the conditions. He's got
mm
he's got some good form, and he's
hmm
ready to go.
And now in the runs category, who do you think could be topping that one?
I'm gonna go with an outside chance here, but
Hmm
I'm gonna go Neil Brand from South Africa. I mean, he looked good in the New Zealand 11 game.
hmm
He looked like he could hold his own at the top.
hmm
I'm not sure how that will be in international cricket. However, he looks like a solid player. And I mean,
mm
with Kane coming back from injury, I mean, there could be a standout black cap. However, Devon Conway's in some poor form.
mm
Tom Latham's not in the greatest of form. And Will Young's in great form. However, it could be very close, I would say.
mm. Um, so now we'll move on to the sort of our club, our lower level under our domestic competition. So we'll start with the Dunedin T20 final. So do you just want to give our viewers a quick wrap up of what happened in that one?
Yeah, so in the Dunedin T20 final, it was Northeast Valley versus Uni Grange, and
Hmm
it was a tie on Duckworth Lewis. The Swans scored 119 from their 15 overs, being five down in the end, and then Uni Grange needed to chase 50 off their five overs in a limited overs game,
hmm
um, scoring, and they came up one short, scoring 49, with being two down. I mean,
hmm
the standouts of that game were Hunter Kindley. He scored 53 off 42 and held up
hmm
the inning for Northeast Valley really well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the
And
wickets were kind of shared
yeah,
around by
yeah, yeah,
Grange. I mean, Glenn Phillips didn't take a wicket in his
yeah.
first game, but
And there
that
was
was.
um yeah, I mean it's talking about Glenn Phillips. I mean, how did he do in the batting innings? Because I mean, I imagine,
I mean,
in a 5 over game, he'd probably go out and probably try and smash it around. So how did he do?
he didn't open, which was the surprising part of
Mm,
it. I mean, he came in at three on
hmm
the in the final over. He came in uh with uh needing 11 off the last over,
hmm
and he his first ball he scored a four, and then the next he just got out. He was trying to obviously whack it, and
mm
I'm pretty sure he's hit it to a boundary rider of Hunter Kindley, who's played one list day game for Otago.
mm
Um, so obviously that left Grange needing six off the last three, which is probably doable. However, they
Yeah,
came up one run short, scoring only
yeah,
five.
yeah. And who came in at number 4 for them? It's quite an
It
unusual
was
name, I
yeah,
suppose,
this
that everyone.
Andrew Hazeldine or Hazeldine.
Yeah. Um. Now moving on, we're gonna just wrap up the episode with the Hawke Cup and all the games that have been going on with that competition. So, do you want to start off by telling us all about the games that were played, the 3 games that were played in the South Island?
Yeah, I'll be happy to wrap those up. So first of all, Southland versus South Canterbury was played um down in Queens Park in Invercargill. And Southland posted 356. Um, I mean, they had some big scores. I mean,
Hmm
they had a 89 off 85 and 173 off 200
Oh,
from
yeah.
Lloyd and Hart. Uh, I mean, no one else held up in the inning apart from
hmm
those two. However,
hmm
it didn't matter. They posted 156 in the first day.
mm
Um, and basically, it allowed them to get the forward stride into the match. South Canterbury, I mean, they didn't do much to respond. I mean, they had a 50 and just falling short of a 50. However, they only scored 190 in the end, which was well short of the
Three, five,
required
6.
total.
Yeah.
And then Southland forced them to follow on. However, it was a win to Southland via the first inning.
And now moving on to the next game, which was just a bit further up the road.
Yeah, North Otago versus Mid Canterbury and Ashburton. North Otago, I mean, they scored 235. This was by far their best game throughout the whole of the Hawke Cup. Their one standout was Jeremy Smith, who had to miss the Dunedin T20 final for the Hawke Cup, playing for North Otago. He scored 91 of 138. The others in his team didn't hold up. I mean, the next highest score was 24, and they only scored 235. And then Mid Canterbury the next day, they just went out there and easily did it. There was someone who struck out on 99, Jemmett. He got unlucky.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a 50 in there, but I mean, they took a pretty convincing first inning win.
And then third game in the South Island, was it the Zone 3 final?
The Zone 3 final between Nelson and Canterbury Country. So Nelson had called back Jared Mackay, they'd called back Greg Hay, and they had called back Caleb Mackay down from Dunedin. I mean, no one really kicked on. I mean, Jared Mackay scored 21. Greg Hay only scored 13. I mean, they had 114 scored. That actually brought them up to 325 in the end. But I mean, it wasn't the greatest inning. I mean, they had that one massive score, and then the next inning, Reece Murray scored 40, with Chamberlain also scoring 81. However, Fraser Sheet also came in and scored 25. I mean, there was also a 73 up the top of the order. I mean, Canterbury Country scored 326 off their 128 overs, while Nelson scored 325 off their 130 overs. So Canterbury Country took the game by first inning win.
Yeah, we'll move on to the final game of the Hawke Cup. And this was the Hawke Cup Challenge match played at Nelson Park in Napier, and that was between the holders Hawke's Bay and the challengers Manawatu. So in the first innings, Manawatu were able to post 198 with Bevan Small's 51 from 51, and lifting them to that total, along with Curtis Heafy's 48 and Arana Noema Barnett's 45. Liam Dudding also taking a 6 for the Bay. And then moving on to the second innings, Hawke's Bay lost a couple of wickets early, with Jack Boyle and Bailey Foote falling for 1 and 10 respectively. But then night watchman Dudding and fellow Central Stag Brad Shumlin got 60, and then Dudding got 20. But it was really that last wicket stand between Ben Stoynoff and Toby Finlay that was actually really the crucial partnership for the Hawke's Bay side, with Finlay making 58 and Stoynoff making 0. And then with the game only being 3 days, it was unlikely that Manawatu would be able to claw themselves back into a win. Even though Dane Cleaver did score 129 not out of 117, but the Hawke's Bay weather also did not help, with rain appearing on that final day, as Manawatu made their way to 251 for 9 when they declared, but that was when the captains also shook hands. So Otis, what do you think of that game?
Well, in the Hawke Cup, obviously, it's very unlikely you're going to get a result in the end. I mean, Manawatu fought hard, but it was just too little too late in the end. I mean, they obviously had to fight for this Hawke Cup. I mean, they were playing their own team in their own zone. So was all right, but
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't post enough in the first inning. I mean, if
Mm.
they had got just like 50 more,
Yeah.
there was a game and they could have taken it,
Yeah.
but it was just unlucky in that
Mm.
regard.
And I think it was confirmed today that Counties Manukau are coming down to play them in the next challenge match for anyone interested in that result. That will be played, I think, on the 9th of February. Now, moving on, currently we've got our New Zealand under-19 lads playing over in South Africa at the under-19 World Cup. So just how have they been going so far? Not too well, from what I understand.
I mean, they started off strong with a win
Mhm.
against Nepal by, I think it was 64 runs in the end. I mean, Reddy, he scored a quick fire 147 off 125, and
Jeez,
Oliver
yeah.
Jackson, the captain, scored 75 off 81. I
Mhm.
mean, no one else put anything together. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a shocking inning other than those two in that
Mhm.
regard. I mean, you see, there was a few ducks in there. I mean, Zach Cumming had a golden duck.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, they posted 302,
Mhm.
um, which which was defendable against
Mhm.
Nepal. However, if they were versing a better opponent, they
Mhm.
would have been gone, and it wouldn't
Mhm.
have worked.
Mhm.
In
And
the
yeah,
yeah, in
moving
the
on.
in the second inning,
Mhm.
for New Zealand, I mean, Mason Clark took three,
Mhm.
off his 8 overs with 25 runs, keeping it tight.
Mhm.
He's someone to look out for Otago in the future.
Mhm.
I think he's only 16 maybe, so
Oh yeah.
it's good experience for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Along with some others chipping in for the
Yeah.
wickets, which they restricted Nepal to 238 off their
Mhm.
50 overs.
Oh, yeah. And then the second match, they had a close win. There was a bit of controversy as well in that one. From what I can recall, wasn't there, Otis?
Yeah, I mean there was a man cave in the match. I mean, New Zealand should have been confident.
Mm.
They bowled Afghanistan out for 91 in 21 overs.
Mhm.
They were on top, and they should
Yeah.
have been on top for the whole match.
Yeah.
However, it just didn't fall their way in the end.
Mm.
I mean, no one really stood up apart from Oliver Jackson, and he scored 26.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, they were lucky to even get to 92 in the end. I
Mm.
mean, they had to get it off 82 overs, or no, not 82, 28
Mhm.
overs, and they were nine down.
Mm.
And I mean, if you have to rely on your number nine and number 11 to hit the winning runs, it's
Yeah.
not really going to work out for you very well.
No.
Um, I mean, there was some people who took a wicket. I mean, Matt Rowe took a fifer,
Mhm.
uh, and everyone else just kind of chipped in a little bit. But obviously they finished off in the 28th over or
Mm.
29th over,
Mhm.
nine down.
Mm.
So that would obviously be something that they needed to work
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
And then in the next game versus Pakistan, it wasn't even close. I mean, the highest score was Tewata,
Mhm.
scoring 29 off 55 for, well, that's the second highest score. And then Stackpole scored 42 off 37.
Right.
I mean, no one else held up. They scored 140 off their 38 overs in the
Mhm.
end. Um, I mean, they definitely need to improve on that
Yeah. Totally.
coming into the tournament. I mean, no one really stood up. There was no wickets taken in the Pakistan inning, and
Mm.
they chased down 140 in 25 overs.
Yeah.
So that is really not a good match,
No.
and New Zealand need to look past that.
Mm.
And we move on to the most recent game with India.
Yep.
Um, India posted 129 for eight after 50 overs.
Mhm.
I mean, Mason Clark uh, a fourfer. However, he was pretty expensive, going for 62 off his 8 overs.
Mhm.
Um, However, no one really chipped in that much. I mean, they were either taking they were when they were taking wickets, they were going for expensive amount. I
Mhm.
mean, Zach Cumming finally got a wicket in this game.
Mhm.
I mean, he hasn't been on form this tournament.
Mm.
And he's trying to push for a Targo selection in the next few
Mhm.
years. I don't think he can't sustain this form for much longer. He
Yeah.
has to push on and improve. But currently, as it sits in the Super Six, New Zealand are fourth after 3 matches, where our points differential is minus 1.915 with 2 points after 3 matches. And we've only got the one more game against Ireland. So I mean, I don't think they can make it into the semi-finals at this point. However, it was an all right campaign from the New Zealanders. However, they just haven't clicked in the latter stages of the tournament.
So yeah, I suppose that Ireland game will just be a chance for them to finish off on a high with a win. That's what they'll probably be aiming for. So yeah, thank you, Otis, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you on. And yeah, so you can follow us on our socials. They're listed in the description. So thanks everyone for listening to us, and we'll see you again. Thanks, guys.